He's not real. That's what my sister Caroline said to me, standing on the manicured lawn of my parents' estate in Southampton on a perfect Saturday afternoon in May. Surrounded by 80 guests at her engagement party, champagne glass in her perfectly manicured hand, designer dress catching the sunlight just right. She looked me dead in the eye and said it loud enough for the people around us to hear. "Come on, Sophie. We all know your fiancé isn't real. You made him up because you're jealous of me." The conversations around us stopped. The polite murmur of wealthy people making small talk evaporated into silence. Everyone within earshot turned to watch. Waiting. Anticipating drama at what was supposed to be a celebration. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked entertained. This was the kind of scene that would be discussed at country club lunches for weeks. I stood there holding my own champagne glass, wearing a dress I'd spent too much money on because I knew my family would judge me if I didn't, and I felt every eye on me. Felt the weight of their assumptions, felt the familiar sting of being dismissed by my own family. But I kept my voice steady, calm, unbothered. "He's real, Caroline. He's just busy." She laughed. Not a polite, restrained laugh. A genuine, mocking laugh that invited others to join in. Several people did. "Right," she said, drawing out the word. "Busy. So busy he can't attend a single family event. So important that we've never met him. So mysterious that there are no photos of him on your social media. Come on, Sophie. Even you have to admit this is ridiculous." "Some people value privacy," I said. "Some people don't exist," she shot back. More laughter from the crowd. My mother, Victoria Chen, was standing about 10 feet away talking to one of her society friends. She heard the exchange. I saw her stiffen, saw the discomfort cross her face. But she didn't intervene, didn't defend me, just turned slightly away, pretending she hadn't heard. My father, James Chen, was over by the bar holding court with his golf buddies, all of them in their expensive casual wear, discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes. He was too far away to have heard the exchange, or at least that's what he'd claim later. My brother Marcus, 3 years younger than me, was standing with his wife Sloane near the dessert table. He heard everything, made eye contact with me, smirked into his drink. He thought this was funny. They all thought I was lying. For the past year, since I'd told my family I was engaged, they'd been skeptical, questioning, increasingly convinced that I'd invented a fiancé because I was 39, years old, unmarried, and apparently so desperate to keep up with my younger sister's picture-perfect life that I'd resort to fabricating an entire relationship. And nothing I said, no amount of explanation about his work schedule or his need for privacy, made any difference. They'd decided I was lying. And in their minds, that was that. Until 1 hour later, when everything changed. When the ground started shaking. When 6 black SUVs with tinted windows and diplomatic flags rolled up the long driveway to my parents' estate. When men in dark suits with earpieces stepped out first, scanning the area with professional efficiency. When my fiancé emerged from the center vehicle looking exactly like what he was, one of the most powerful diplomats in the world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you how we got here. Let me tell you about the 2 years that led to this moment, to this public humiliation, to this reckoning. Let me tell you my story. My name is Sophie Chen, and I'm 39 years old. I work as a senior translator and interpreter for the United Nations in New York City. I speak 7 languages fluently: English, Mandarin, French, Spanish, Arabic, Russian, and German. I studied linguistics at Georgetown University, got my master's degree at Columbia, and I've been with the UN for 11 years now. I'm very good at my job. Excellent, actually. I've translated for heads of state during Security Council sessions. I've interpreted for peace negotiations in conflict zones. I've worked on humanitarian agreements, climate accords, refugee treaties. My work has literally helped save lives, helped broker peace, helped move international policy forward. I've been recognized by my department multiple times. I make $165,000 a year, which in New York City is comfortable, but not extravagant. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in the West Village that costs $300 to $200 a month. I have savings. I have a 401k. I have a life I've built through hard work and dedication. But to my family, I'm just Sophie, the oldest child who somehow became a disappointment, the daughter who didn't marry well, the sister who chose a career in public service instead of marrying into money, the family member whose life choices are tolerated but not celebrated. My family is wealthy. Very wealthy. My father, James Chen, is a hedge fund manager. His firm manages approximately $8 billion in assets. His personal net worth is somewhere around $400 million, though he'd never confirm the exact number. My mother, Victoria, comes from old money. Her family has been wealthy for generations. The Vanderbilts are distant cousins. The Astors attended her parents' wedding. She grew up in a world of country clubs and cotillions, and assuming that wealth was simply the natural order of things. I grew up in Manhattan, on the Upper East Side, in a townhouse that's probably worth $25 million now. Private schools, summer homes in the Hamptons and Aspen, vacations in Europe, everything money could buy. My siblings understood what was expected of them. Caroline, who's 36, 3 years younger than me, is the golden child. She's beautiful, charming, and socially adept. She married Preston Caldwell III when she was 28. The Caldwells own a pharmaceutical empire. Preston doesn't work, not really. He sits on board. He manages the family foundation. He plays golf. They live in a $22 million townhouse on the Upper East Side. Caroline doesn't work either. She's on charity boards. She organizes galas. She's photographed for society pages. Her Instagram has 180,000 followers. She's exactly what my parents wanted their daughter to be. My brother Marcus is 36, also 3 years younger than me. They're twins, actually, which has always made me feel even more like the odd one out. Marcus works at my father's firm. He married Sloane Hartford, whose father is a real estate developer worth hundreds of millions. They have 3 children, and a house in Greenwich, Connecticut that looks like it belongs in Architectural Digest. Marcus makes several $1 million a year. He's being groomed to eventually take over my father's firm. He's doing exactly what my parents wanted their son to do. And then there's me. I chose differently. After Georgetown, I could have gone into finance like my father wanted. I could have married one of the suitable young men my mother kept introducing me to. I could have settled into the life that was expected of me. But I didn't. I went to Columbia for linguistics. I joined the UN. I dedicated my life to work that mattered, work that had purpose beyond accumulating wealth. My parents were disappointed. They hid it behind polite words about supporting my choices. But I felt it. The subtle judgment. The way they'd introduce me at parties. "This is our daughter Sophie. She works at the UN," said with a slight downturn of the mouth, as if apologizing for me. The way they'd constantly ask when I was going to settle down. Find a nice man. Start a family. As if my career was just something to occupy time until I fulfilled my real purpose of getting married and producing grandchildren. By the time I hit 35, the pressure had intensified. Every family gathering included pointed questions about my dating life. Every holiday involved my mother introducing me to the son of one of her friends. Every conversation with my father included some reference to how I was running out of time. "You're not getting any younger, Sophie. Don't you want a family?" Caroline was married at 28. The good ones won't wait forever. I handled it the way I always had. Smiled politely, changed the subject, focused on my work, told myself that their approval didn't matter, that I was living my life on my own terms, that I was happy. Mostly happy, mostly. And then, 2 years ago, I met Daniel. Ambassador Daniel James Reed. British, 45 years old at the time. Career diplomat with the UK Foreign Service. He'd been appointed as the United Kingdom's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations about 8 months before we met, meaning he was second in command of the entire UK mission to the UN. Our paths had crossed professionally several times before we actually met. I'd translated for meetings he attended. I'd seen him in the hallways. We exchanged polite nods, professional courtesy between colleagues, nothing more. Then one evening in November 2 years ago, everything changed. I was working late on an emergency translation. There was a Security Council session scheduled for the next morning regarding a humanitarian crisis in Syria, and the briefing documents were in both Arabic and Russian. I was the only translator on staff that night who could handle both languages at the level of accuracy required for something this sensitive. It was nearly 10 p.m. The building was mostly empty. I was in one of the translation offices, a second cup of coffee sitting next to my laptop, working through dense policy documents and trying to capture not just the words but the nuance, the subtext, the political implications of every phrase. Someone knocked on the open door. I looked up. Ambassador Reed was standing there, still in a full suit despite the late hour, tie slightly loosened, looking exhausted. "I'm terribly sorry to interrupt," he said in that crisp British accent. "I was told you might be the person who could help me." "Help with what?" "We have a situation. 2 delegations in an emergency negotiating session downstairs. 1 Russian, 1 Saudi. Both are refusing to speak English to each other as a matter of principle and pride. We have a translator for Russian and 1 for Arabic, but we need someone who can do both seamlessly, who can catch the nuances when they're deliberately speaking in ways meant to be misunderstood by the other side. We need someone who understands not just the words but the game being played. I'm told you're that person." "I'm working on the Syria briefing documents." "I know. This is related. These negotiations are about humanitarian aid corridors into Syria. If we can get them to agree tonight, we can potentially open routes that will save thousands of lives, but it dies if we can't get them talking honestly to each other." I looked at my computer screen, looked at the time, looked back at this diplomat I barely knew who was asking me to spend my night facilitating a negotiation that might actually matter. "Give me 5 minutes to save my work," I said. "Thank you. Truly." I followed him downstairs to one of the secure conference rooms. The next 6 hours were intense. 2 stubborn diplomats, each convinced they were right, each unwilling to give an inch, each speaking in their native language partially to avoid being fully understood by the other side. I translated everything, not just word for word, but meaning for meaning. When the Russian delegate said something that was technically polite but culturally dismissive, I conveyed that. When the Saudi delegate used a phrase that sounded cooperative, but actually contained a veiled threat, I made sure everyone understood. I didn't just translate. I navigated. I mediated without seeming to mediate. By 4 a.m., they'd reached an agreement. Humanitarian corridors would open. Aid would flow. Lives would be saved. As everyone filed out of the room, exhausted but satisfied, Ambassador Reed waited for me. "That was remarkable," he said. "That's the job." "No, it's not just the job. I've worked with dozens of translators over the years. What you did tonight was far beyond technical translation. You understood what they weren't saying as clearly as what they were. You caught cultural nuances that most translators would miss. You helped them understand each other in a way that made agreement possible. That's a rare gift." "Thank you. It's 4 a.m. and I'm sure you're exhausted. But would you let me buy you a coffee?" "Proper coffee, I mean, not the terrible brew they have here. As a thank you." I should have said no. It was 4 a.m. I was exhausted. He was a senior diplomat and I was UN staff, and there were probably rules about fraternization. But something made me say yes. We went to a 24-hour diner near the UN building, one of those classic New York places with booths and fluorescent lighting and mediocre coffee that somehow tastes perfect at 4 a.m. We talked until the sun came up, not about work, about everything else. Books we'd read, languages we loved, cities we'd lived in. He told me about growing up in London, about diplomatic postings in Cairo and Moscow and Brussels, about a marriage in his early 30s that had ended badly when his wife decided she couldn't handle the constant travel and uncertainty of diplomatic life. I told him about growing up in a wealthy family that valued money over meaning, about choosing linguistics over finance, about the pressure to marry well and produce grandchildren, about finding purpose in work that mattered. "You're fascinating," he said at one point. "I'm really not. I'm just a translator." "You speak 7 languages. You've helped negotiate international agreements. You chose service over privilege. You understand that there are things more important than money and status. That's rare in any world, but especially in the world you come from. That's fascinating." We exchanged numbers, said we should get coffee again sometime. I went home and slept for 12 hours. The next week he texted me, asked if I wanted to have dinner. I said yes. We went to a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, far from the UN, far from anywhere we might run into colleagues. We talked for 4 hours. About everything and nothing. About the books we were reading, the music we liked, the places we wanted to travel. It was easy, natural, comfortable in a way first dates rarely are. At the end of the night, walking me to the subway, he said, "I'd like to see you again, if you're open to that." I am. I should tell you, though, that my life is complicated. I travel constantly. My schedule is unpredictable. I work 70-hour weeks during crises, which is most of the time. I'm not good at traditional relationships. My marriage failed partly because of that. If you're looking for someone who can be consistently present, I'm not that person. I work at the UN, I said. My schedule is unpredictable too. I understand the demands of this kind of work. I'm not looking for traditional. I'm looking for real. Real I can do. We started seeing each other. Quietly, privately, carefully. We both valued discretion. He was a public figure to some degree. Photographed at UN events. Quoted in newspapers about diplomatic matters. I didn't want the attention. We'd meet at his apartment in Midtown, a modest place by my family's standards, but comfortable. We'd go to restaurants in Brooklyn and Queens, places far from where my family or his colleagues might be. We'd take weekend trips to small towns in upstate New York, to bed and breakfasts in the Berkshires, to quiet beaches in Connecticut. It was the most honest relationship I'd ever had. No pretense, no performance, just two people who understood each other's work, respected each other's choices, enjoyed each other's company. 3 months in, lying in his bed one Sunday morning, he said, "I'm falling in love with you. I think I'm falling in love with you too." That terrifies me a bit. I've failed at this before. So have I. Maybe we're both better at it now. 6 months in, he asked me to move in with him. I said yes. At 10 months, on a completely ordinary Tuesday evening after we'd both had long days at work and were eating takeout Thai food on his couch, he said, "Marry me." I laughed. Is that a proposal? It's a terrible proposal. I'm exhausted. You're wearing sweatpants. We're eating pad thai from containers. This isn't how I planned it. How did you plan it? I was going to take you somewhere beautiful. Paris, maybe, or that inn in Vermont you liked. I was going to make it romantic and memorable. But sitting here right now, I can't imagine my life without you. And I don't want to wait for the perfect moment. Sophie Chen, will you marry me? Yes. He pulled a ring box from his pocket. Had apparently been carrying it for weeks, waiting for the right moment, then decided this was it. The ring was perfect. A 2-carat diamond, simple platinum setting, elegant without being ostentatious. I loved it, but I didn't wear it in public. Not yet. We decided to keep the engagement quiet for a while. His work was sensitive. There were security considerations. He was negotiating with foreign governments on behalf of the UK, and any personal information could potentially be used for leverage or manipulation. My work required discretion too. I translated classified conversations. I had security clearance. We both understood that the less our personal lives were public, the safer and simpler things would be. And honestly, I liked having something that was just ours, something my family couldn't judge or criticize or try to control. But I did tell them. That was my first mistake. I called my mother 2 days after he proposed. "Mom, I have news. I'm engaged." Silence for a moment. Then what? To whom? "His name is Daniel Reed. He's a British diplomat. We've been together for 10 months. 10 months and you've never mentioned him? We've never met him? We've been private about the relationship. His work is sensitive. He has security concerns. And honestly, I didn't want to deal with family scrutiny while we were figuring things out." "What kind of diplomat?" "He's the UK's Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations." More silence. Longer this time. "Sophie, are you making this up?" I felt like I'd been slapped. "What?" "No. Why would I make this up?" "Because you've been alone for so long. Because Caroline just got engaged and maybe you felt pressure. Honey, if you're inventing a boyfriend to save face, to prove something to us, you don't have to do that." "I'm not inventing anything. He's real." "He proposed. We're engaged." "Then why haven't we met him? Why haven't you even mentioned him until now?" "Because we're private people. Because he travels constantly for work. Because I knew you'd do exactly what you're doing right now. Question everything, judge everything, make assumptions." "I'm not making assumptions. I'm being realistic. You're telling me you're engaged to a high-ranking British diplomat we've never heard of, never met, never even knew existed. That's suspicious, Sophie. It's not suspicious. It's private. There's a difference. If he's real, bring him to Sunday dinner. This week, let us meet him. I'll ask him. But Mom, you need to understand that his schedule is incredibly unpredictable. He might not be able to make it this week. If he can't make time for one family dinner, then yes, I'm going to question whether he exists. She hung up. I sat there in Daniel's apartment, staring at my phone, feeling sick. That night, I told Daniel about the conversation. Your mother thinks I'm fake? She thinks I made you up because I'm desperate and jealous of my sister. That's insulting to you on multiple levels. I know. Do you want me to meet them? I can do Sunday dinner if it helps. I don't know. They're going to be awful. They're going to ask invasive questions about your background and your salary and your family's wealth. They're going to judge you for being a public servant instead of a hedge fund manager. They're going to make assumptions and pass judgment and generally be the worst versions of themselves. And you still love them? They're my family. It's complicated. Then I'll meet them. For you, not for them. For you. That Sunday dinner was a disaster. We went to my parents' townhouse on the Upper East Side. Daniel wore a suit, trying to make a good impression. I wore a conservative dress and spent the entire cab ride there feeling anxious. My whole family was there. Mom and Dad, Caroline and Preston, Marcus and Sloane. Everyone dressed expensively. The townhouse decorated perfectly. The table set with china that cost more than most people's monthly rent. My father dominated the conversation immediately, asking Daniel questions that were really interrogations. So you work for the British government? Yes, sir. I'm a career diplomat with the Foreign Service. What does that pay? Dad, I interjected. That's a rude question. It's fine, Daniel said calmly. I'm comfortable. Not wealthy by your standards, I'm sure. But I own my apartment in Manhattan. I have savings. I'm financially stable. But you're essentially a government bureaucrat, my father pressed. I'm a diplomat. I negotiate on behalf of my country. I help craft foreign policy. I work on peace agreements and humanitarian issues. It's meaningful work, even if it doesn't come with a hedge fund salary. My mother changed the subject to Caroline's wedding planning. Caroline and Preston had gotten engaged 3 months before Daniel and I did, and their wedding was planned for the following summer. It was going to be an event. 300 guests, a venue in the Hamptons, a budget of over $400,000. Caroline went into detail about flowers and dresses and photographers. She didn't ask me anything about my engagement. Nobody did. At one point, Preston asked Daniel, "So you're at the UN?" That's quaint. I'm on the board of several international charities. We fund healthcare initiatives in developing countries. My family's foundation gave away $50 million last year. That's admirable, Daniel said politely, though I imagine most of that comes with tax benefits. Preston's smile froze. Well, yes, but the point is to help people. Of course. I'm sure your accountant is very skilled at maximizing both the charitable impact and the tax deductions. It was the most polite insult I'd ever heard. I had to hide my smile. After dinner in the car home, Daniel was quiet. I'm sorry, I said. For what? For subjecting you to that. I told you they'd be awful. They weren't awful to me. They were dismissive and condescending, but I'm a diplomat. I've dealt with worse from actual hostile foreign governments. What bothered me was how they treated you. What do you mean? They barely acknowledged you. Your mother spent the entire dinner talking about Caroline's wedding without once asking about ours. Your father interrogated me but didn't ask you a single question about your work or your life. Your brother made jokes about your career. They treated you like you were invisible unless you were serving their agenda of wanting to vet me. That's just how they are. That's not how family should be. He was right, but I'd been dealing with it for so long that I'd stopped noticing. Over the next year and a half, as our engagement continued, my family's skepticism grew. Daniel missed Caroline's engagement party because he was in Geneva for emergency climate negotiations. He missed Easter Sunday because he was in Nairobi mediating a regional peace agreement. He missed my father's 65th birthday because the Prime Minister needed him in London for briefings on trade policy. He missed Thanksgiving because there was a crisis at the UN that required his immediate attention. He missed Christmas because his mother in London had a health scare, and he needed to be with her. Each missed event added to their conviction that he wasn't real. that I'd invented him, that I was so desperate not to be the family failure that I'd created an elaborate lie. If he was real, he'd make time for family, Caroline said after he missed Thanksgiving. If he's so important, we should be able to find information about him online, Marcus said after Christmas. I've looked. There's a Daniel Reed at the UN, but the photos are blurry. How do we know that's actually your fiancé? Because I'm telling you it is. But you won't let us meet him. You won't post photos with him. You keep him hidden. That's not normal, Sophie. My mother started introducing me to eligible men again at social events. Since your situation isn't working out, you should meet Harrison. He's a lawyer, very successful, comes from a good family. My father stopped asking about Daniel entirely, which somehow felt worse than the interrogation. Marcus would make jokes. How's the invisible fiancé? Does your imaginary boyfriend know you're spending time with us? Even at work, people started questioning it. A colleague I was friendly with, a woman named Margaret, asked me one day, Sophie, do you actually have a fiancé? I've never seen you with anyone. You never talk about him. You wear the ring, but you never post photos or bring him to work events. Yes, Margaret, I have a fiancé. He's very real. He's just very private. And so am I. Okay, I'm sorry for asking. It's just that people are talking. People are always talking. But it hurt. All of it hurt. Not because I doubted Daniel. I saw him nearly every day. I lived with him. I knew exactly how real he was. But because no one believed me. Because my own family had decided I was lying, and nothing I said made a difference. The worst part was that I couldn't prove them wrong without compromising Daniel's privacy and security. I couldn't post photos of us together. Because he was a public figure with genuine security concerns. I couldn't bring him to events because his schedule genuinely was impossible to predict. I couldn't share details about his work because much of it was classified. So I just lived with it. With the doubt. With the mockery. With being the family joke. Until Caroline's engagement party. The big one. The one that leads us back to where this story started. Caroline's engagement party to Preston Caldwell III was scheduled for May 18th at my parents' estate in Southampton. Not the townhouse in Manhattan, the estate in the Hamptons. 8 bedrooms, oceanfront property, the kind of place that gets featured in luxury real estate magazines. The party was Caroline's moment to shine. 80 guests, professional caterers, live music, a photographer from Town and Country magazine, an event coordinator to make sure everything was perfect. My mother had been planning it for months. I RSVP'd. Yes. Daniel was scheduled to be in London that weekend for Foreign Office briefings. I planned to go alone, endure a few hours of questions, and pity and thinly veiled insults about my fake fiancé, then drive back to the city and try to forget about it. But 3 days before the party on Wednesday evening, Daniel called me at work. I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. The London briefings were postponed. I have the weekend free. That's good news, isn't it? It means I can come to your sister's party. If you still want me there. I was silent. Part of me desperately wanted him there. I wanted him to meet my family properly. I wanted to prove to all of them that I wasn't lying, that he was real, that I hadn't invented an elaborate fiction. But another part of me was terrified. Terrified they'd be cruel to him. Terrified he'd finally understand just how dysfunctional my family was, and decide I wasn't worth the trouble. Terrified of what it would mean to bring these 2 parts of my life together. Sophie, are you there? Yes, sorry, I'm just processing. You don't have to decide now, but I want to meet them. Really meet them. Not for them. I don't care what they think of me, but for you. Because you shouldn't have to keep defending our relationship. Because I want them to know I'm real, and I love you, and I'm not going anywhere. Okay, yes, come to the party. Good. I'll arrange everything. I didn't know what arrange everything meant. Didn't think to ask. Just told my mother that night that Daniel would be attending the party after all. She was skeptical. I'll believe it when I see him, Sophie. You'll see him. Saturday at 2 p.m. We'll see. Friday, the day before the party, I was anxious. Couldn't focus at work. Kept checking my phone. Daniel texted me around noon. Everything is arranged. I'll meet you at your parents' house tomorrow. I need to arrive separately due to security protocols. Is that okay? Security protocols? I'll explain later. Don't worry. Just trust me. Saturday morning, I drove out to Southampton. 3 hours from Manhattan, traffic wasn't bad. I arrived at 1:30, wanting to be early, wanting to have time to settle my nerves before the party started. The estate looked perfect. White tents on the back lawn, flowers everywhere, tables set with linens and crystal, a bar stocked with expensive liquor, a string quartet warming up. Everything designed to impress. Caroline was already there, looking perfect in a pale pink designer dress, her hair professionally styled, her makeup flawless. She saw me arrive and immediately came over. Sophie, you made it. Of course. I wouldn't miss your engagement party. Where's the mysterious fiancé? He's coming. He'll be here soon. She raised an eyebrow. Sure. Well, I hope he makes it this time. Preston was standing nearby, drink in hand, looking smug in his expensive casual wear. We're all very excited to finally meet him, if he exists. He exists. We'll see. Guests started arriving. My parents' society friends, Caroline and Preston's crowd, wealthy people in expensive clothes making polite conversation. Everyone drinking champagne, eating catered appetizers, congratulating Caroline and Preston. I stood off to the side, feeling increasingly anxious, checking my phone every few minutes. 2 p.m. The party was in full swing. No Daniel. 2:15 p.m. Still no Daniel. I texted him. Are you close? He responded, yes, about 20 minutes out. There's a situation with the security detail, but we're handling it. Don't worry. Security detail? What security detail? Before I could text back asking what that meant, Caroline approached me. She had 3 of her friends with her, all of them, looking at me with that mixture of pity and amusement that I'd come to recognize. Sophie, where's your fiancé? He's running late. He'll be here. Running late, of course. How convenient. Caroline, he texted me. He's literally on his way right now. She laughed. Sophie, stop. We all know he's not coming. We all know he's not real. It's okay. You don't have to keep pretending. I'm not pretending. One of her friends, a woman named Brittany, spoke up. Sophie, come on. We've all heard about this. Your family has been talking about your fake fiancé for months. It's kind of sad, honestly. He's not fake. He's a real person who's on his way here right now. Another friend. Then show us a photo. Show us proof. I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, found a picture Daniel and I had taken together a few weeks ago at his apartment. Just the 2 of us, casual, smiling. I showed them. Caroline looked at it. That could be anyone. That could be a photo you found online, or a friend who agreed to pose with you. That's my fiancé, Ambassador Daniel Reed. He works at the UN. So you've said. For a year you've been saying this. But we've never met him. He's never at any family events. There are no public photos of you 2 together. He's too busy or too private. It's not real, Sophie. And everyone knows it. More guests were gathering now, drawn by the raised voices, by the drama unfolding at what was supposed to be a celebration. My mother approached, looking uncomfortable. Sophie, honey, maybe we should talk about this privately. There's nothing to talk about privately, Mom. Daniel is real. He's on his way here. He'll be arriving soon. My father joined the circle, whiskey in hand. Sophie, I think it's time to be honest. If this man exists, we should have met him by now. The fact that you can't produce him after, claiming to be engaged for over a year, suggests you're not being truthful with us. I'm being completely truthful. He's a deputy permanent representative to the UN. His schedule is unpredictable. His work is classified. He has security concerns. I can't control when he can attend family events." Caroline laughed. Not a polite laugh anymore. A mocking, cruel laugh. Deputy Permanent Representative. That's such a specific, important-sounding title. Did you look that up? Did you find some diplomat's profile online and create a whole backstory? No. I'm engaged to Daniel Reed. He proposed to me 18 months ago. We live together in Manhattan. He's real. Then prove it, she said loudly. Guests were fully watching now. The party had stopped. 80 people were staring at me. "Call him right now. Put him on speaker. Let us all hear this fake boyfriend of yours. He's driving. He'll be here in person. You can meet him yourself." "You've been saying that for an hour. He's not coming, Sophie. Because he doesn't exist. And honestly, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic that you're so desperate to compete. With me, so jealous of my life that you invented an entire person." The words hit like physical blows. The guests were watching. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked entertained. This was the scandal of the season. "I'm not competing with you. I'm not jealous of you. I have a real life and a real relationship. And I'm sorry you can't accept that. What I can't accept is being lied to for over a year. What I can't accept is you embarrassing this family with your delusions." Preston stepped forward. "Caroline, maybe we should just drop this." "No, I'm tired of pretending. She needs to either admit the truth or stop coming to family events if she's going to lie to us." My mother tried again. "Caroline, that's harsh." "Sophie, honey, why don't you come inside and we can talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about. Daniel is real. He's coming here, and when he arrives, you're all going to feel very stupid." "When will he arrive exactly?" Caroline demanded. "Tell us a time. Be specific, so we can all stand here and wait for someone who doesn't exist." "Soon." "That's not specific enough. Within the next 20 minutes. She made a big show of checking her watch, a $40,000 Cartier watch that Preston had given her. "Fine, 20 minutes. Let's wait. Let's all wait right here and see if the mystery man finally appears." Other guests checked their watches, pulled out their phones. Someone made a joke about taking bets. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I stood there, feeling every eye on me, feeling the humiliation burning in my chest, and I pulled out my phone. Texted Daniel. "They're mocking me." "Where are you?" He responded immediately. 2 minutes away. "I promise. Trust me." I looked up at Caroline, at my family, at the crowd of guests waiting to watch me be proven a liar. 2 minutes, I said. "Sure," Caroline said. 2 minutes. Just like he's been 2 minutes away for the past year. More laughter. My father was shaking his head. My mother looked like she wanted to disappear. Marcus was smirking. This was entertainment for them. The minutes crawled by. 2:48 p.m. Still no Daniel. 2:49 p.m. Nothing. Caroline was smiling now. Triumphant. She'd won. Proven her point. Shown everyone that her pathetic older sister was a liar. "Sophie," my father said quietly. "Maybe it's time to admit..." He stopped. Because that's when we all felt it. A low rumbling. Like distant thunder. But the sky was perfectly clear. Deep and resonant and getting louder. Car engines. Multiple car engines. Heavy vehicles moving fast. Everyone felt it. The conversation stopped. People turned toward the driveway. The rumbling got louder. Closer. And then we saw them. Coming up the long tree-lined driveway to my parents' estate. 6 black SUVs. Identical. Massive. Factory-tinted windows so dark you couldn't see inside. Driving in perfect formation. And on the hood of the lead vehicle, small flags mounted on either side. On the left, the Union Jack, the flag of the United Kingdom. On the right, the light blue flag of the United Nations. The SUVs came to a stop in front of the house, perfectly aligned, perfectly spaced. The engines cut off simultaneously. For a moment, everything was silent. 80 guests staring. My family froze. Caroline's mouth is slightly open. Then the doors of the first and last vehicles opened. Men stepped out. 4 from each vehicle. 8 men total, all wearing dark suits, all wearing earpieces, all moving with the kind of precision that only comes from military or law enforcement training. Diplomatic Security Service, the British equivalent of the Secret Service. They fanned out, quickly but calmly, scanning the area, assessing threats, and taking positions. One of them spoke into his wrist, saying something we couldn't hear. Then the back door of the center vehicle opened, and Daniel stepped out. He was wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, silver tie. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. His posture was perfect. He looked exactly like what he was. A man used to being in rooms with presidents and prime ministers. A man who negotiated international agreements. A man who represented one of the most powerful countries in the world. Two of the security agents immediately flanked him. They walked toward the back lawn where we were all standing. Toward the party, toward me. The entire crowd was frozen. 80 guests who had been laughing and drinking champagne 30 seconds ago were now completely silent. Staring. Processing what they were seeing. Caroline's face had gone pale. Preston looked like someone had punched him. My father's expression was unreadable. My mother's hand was over her mouth. Marcus had stopped smirking. The quartet had stopped playing. The caterers had stopped serving. Everyone was watching Daniel walk across the lawn toward me. He moved with confidence, but without arrogance. His security detail maintained their positions, professional and intimidating. He walked straight to me, ignored everyone else in the crowd, took my hand in his. "I'm terribly sorry I'm late, darling," he said, his British accent clear and carrying across the silent lawn. The security protocols took longer than anticipated. "You know how it is?" His voice was calm, warm when he looked at me, but there was an edge to it, a formality that made it clear this wasn't just my boyfriend showing up. This was someone important, someone with authority, someone who traveled with armed security. "It's fine," I said. "I'm just glad you made it." He squeezed my hand. Then he turned to face the crowd. I looked directly at my father. "James Chen, I presume. I'm Daniel Reed, Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations for the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I apologize for my tardiness. Unfortunately, international diplomacy doesn't always respect party schedules." He extended his hand. My father, clearly still processing, shook it automatically. "Ambassador Reed, welcome. We've heard a great deal about you. I'm sure you have. Though I understand there's been some question as to whether I actually exist." Dead silence. You could hear birds in the distance. The ocean waves. Nothing else. Daniel smiled. Polite but with a definite edge. "I assure you I'm quite real. Though I understand the confusion, Sophie and I have maintained privacy in our relationship due to security considerations related to my work. But I'm here now, very much in person, very much engaged to your daughter." He turned to my mother. "Mrs. Chen, thank you for having me at your beautiful home. I apologize that my previous commitments have prevented me from attending family events. My work unfortunately requires significant travel and often unpredictable hours." My mother was speechless, literally speechless. She just nodded. Then Daniel turned to Caroline. His expression shifted slightly. Still polite, still diplomatic, but there was steel underneath. "You must be Caroline. The bride-to-be. Congratulations on your engagement. I'm sorry I missed your earlier celebration. Work in Geneva was quite demanding. I understand you've been planning a lovely wedding." Caroline couldn't speak, just stared at him. "I also understand," Daniel continued, his voice pleasant, but his words cutting, "that there's been some speculation about my existence. That my tardiness in meeting the family has led to questions about whether I'm actually Sophie's fiancé or simply a figment of her imagination." He pulled out his phone. I opened something, turned it to face Caroline and the crowd. "This is my official UK government profile. As you can see, my photo, my credentials, my position, all publicly available information. A simple Google search would have confirmed my existence and position, but I suppose it's easier to assume someone is lying than to do basic research." He put his phone away, looked at the assembled guests. His security detail maintained their positions, silent and professional, but their presence was impossible to ignore. "I apologize for disrupting the party," Daniel said, his voice carrying across the lawn. "This is Caroline and Preston's day, and I don't wish to overshadow their celebration. Please, everyone, continue enjoying this lovely event." He took my hand again. "Sophie, could we speak privately for a moment?" I nodded. We walked away from the stunned crowd. His security detail moved with us, maintaining a respectful distance but always present. When we were far enough away that the guests couldn't hear us, Daniel stopped. Looked at me with concern. Are you all right? I'm fine now. They were terrible to you. I heard the end of it as we were arriving. The things your sister said. She's been saying things like that for a year. That's not acceptable. Family doesn't treat family like that. My family does. He was quiet for a moment, angry on my behalf in a way that made me love him even more. Do you want to leave? We can leave right now if you want. Say the word and we're gone. Not yet. I want to stay for a bit. I want to watch them process what just happened. He smiled. Actually smiled. That's fair. And if I'm being honest, I want to watch that too. Did you really have to bring 6 SUVs and a full security detail? I didn't have a choice, actually. When I informed my office that I'd be attending a private event in the Hamptons, they insisted on full diplomatic security protocols. Apparently, there have been some credible threats against British diplomatic personnel in the US over the past few months. Standard procedure now requires a minimum security detail of 8 agents and armored transport for any public appearance by senior Foreign Office staff. So it wasn't just for show? Oh, it was definitely for show. But it was also legitimately required. I'd call it a happy coincidence that the security requirements for my job also happened to provide undeniable proof of my existence and position. Thank you for coming. For defending me, for making them see the truth. Always. You're the most important person in my life. Anyone who treats you badly will hear from me. We walked back to the party hand in hand. The energy had completely shifted. The 80 guests who'd been watching my humiliation were now watching with fascination as a high-ranking British diplomat attended Caroline's party. People wanted to talk to Daniel, wanted to ask questions, wanted to be seen with him. His security detail managed the crowd politely but firmly. One agent stayed close to Daniel at all times. The others maintained a perimeter, professional and intimidating. Preston tried to make conversation, clearly trying to recover from his earlier dismissiveness. So, Ambassador Reed, what exactly do you do at the UN? Currently, I'm working on climate negotiations between developed and developing nations, refugee crisis management in multiple regions, trade policy coordination, humanitarian assistance in conflict zones. The usual diplomatic portfolio. The usual, Preston repeated weakly. Must be fascinating work. It is. Though I imagine your charity work is fulfilling as well. Sophie mentioned your family foundation gave away a significant sum last year. 50 million, yes. Impressive. Though as I understand it, most of that is structured to provide maximum tax benefit while maintaining family control of the assets. Still, any charitable giving is commendable. Preston's smile froze. He clearly couldn't tell if he'd been insulted or complimented. Daniel knew exactly what he'd done. Marcus approached next, suddenly interested in the brother-in-law he'd been mocking for a year. Ambassador Reed, that's quite an entrance. Very impressive. Thank you. Not my preference, honestly. I'd have been happy to arrive in a taxi. But security protocols are what they are. How did you get into diplomatic work? Family tradition primarily. My father was ambassador to France in the 1980s. My grandfather was permanent secretary at the Foreign Office. I studied at Oxford, joined the Foreign Service at 22, worked my way up through postings in various capitals. Nothing particularly extraordinary. Just dedication to public service. He looked at me. Rather like Sophie's career, actually. She speaks 7 languages. She's translated for heads of state during critical negotiations. She's helped broker agreements that have quite literally saved lives. That's extraordinary. That's what real accomplishment looks like. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. My mother approached carefully. Ambassador Reed, I owe you an apology. And Sophie, I owe you one as well. We should have believed you. Yes, Daniel said simply. You should have. Sophie has always been private about her personal life. We should have respected that instead of questioning her. You should have trusted her. She's your daughter. She told you she was engaged. She told you I was real. She gave you no reason to doubt her word except that I couldn't attend family events due to work commitments. That should have been enough. You're right. We were wrong. I'm sorry, Sophie. I know, Mom. But I didn't say I forgave her. Not yet. My father came over. Extended his hand to Daniel again. Ambassador Reed, I apologize for doubting your existence. Sophie's insistence on privacy made it difficult to verify her claims. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. Sophie's insistence on privacy was respecting my security requirements and her own right to keep her personal life personal. She shouldn't have needed to prove her relationship to her own family. She told you the truth. That should have been sufficient. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to your daughter. She's the one you hurt. The party continued, but everything had changed. Guests approached me now with respect instead of pity, offered congratulations on my engagement, asked questions about the wedding. No one made jokes about fake fiancés anymore. Caroline avoided me for most of the party. Finally, after about an hour, she approached. She looked uncomfortable, embarrassed. Sophie, I need to talk to you. Okay. I'm so sorry. I was awful. I said terrible things. I shouldn't have questioned you in front of everyone. I shouldn't have called you pathetic. I'm sorry. Why did you do it? Honestly, jealousy. You've always been the smart one, the accomplished one. You speak 7 languages. You work for the UN. You've built this incredible career. I have money and status, but you have substance. And when you said you were engaged to a high-ranking diplomat, I couldn't handle it. I wanted to believe you were lying because it made me feel better about my own life. Because if you were making it up, then I was still winning. But you weren't lying, and I just publicly humiliated you because I'm insecure. That's honest, at least. Can you forgive me? I thought about the past year, the constant mockery, the jokes, the doubt, the way she'd looked at me 30 minutes ago with such certainty that I was lying. Not today. Maybe eventually, but not today, she nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand. I'll work on being better, I promise. She walked away. Daniel had been watching the exchange from a few feet away. He came over. How are you feeling? Vindicated, angry, relieved, all of it. Do you want to stay longer? Maybe another hour, then I'd like to leave. Whatever you want. At around 5 p.m. we left. Daniel's security detail escorted us to the SUVs. As we drove away, I looked back at the party. At my family standing on the lawn watching us leave. Caroline looked small. Preston looked deflated. My parents looked uncertain. They'd all been so sure I was lying, so convinced I'd invented Daniel to compete with Caroline. And they'd been proven spectacularly wrong in front of 80 witnesses. In the SUV, Daniel took my hand. That was quite a day. Thank you for coming, for the dramatic entrance, for defending me. I meant what I said. You're the most important person in my life. Anyone who treats you badly will answer to me. Did you enjoy making them squirm? More than I probably should have. I'm supposed to be diplomatic, but watching your sister's face when we arrived was deeply satisfying. I laughed. I love you. I love you too. Now would you like to go home? Or would you prefer to stay in the Hamptons for the night? We could get a hotel room, have a quiet dinner, enjoy the evening. Home. I want to go home. The next few days were interesting. My phone exploded with messages from family members. My mother called 6 times that evening, left voicemails. Sophie, please call me back. I want to make this right. We were wrong. I was wrong. Please let me fix this. My father sent a long email. I'll summarize the key parts. Sophie, I've spent 39 years as your father, and yesterday I realized I don't really know you. I've made assumptions about what's important, about what success looks like, about what you need to be happy. I was wrong about all of it. Ambassador Reed is clearly a remarkable man, but more importantly, you've built a remarkable life. You do meaningful work. You've chosen service over comfort. You've found love with someone who shares your values. I'm sorry I didn't see that sooner. I'm sorry I let my expectations blind me to your reality. I'm sorry I doubted you. Can we talk? Caroline sent a text. I know you're not ready to forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm going to be better. I'm going to work on myself. What I did was unforgivable, but I'm going to try to make it right anyway. I love you, Sophie. I'm sorry. Marcus called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Sophie, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Your fiancé showed up with diplomatic security and basically told the whole family that we're idiots, which we are. I'm sorry. I've been a jerk to you for a year. Call me when you're ready to talk. I didn't respond to any of them immediately. I needed time, needed space, needed to process a year of being mocked and doubted and finally being vindicated. 3 days later, I got a call from someone unexpected. Preston's mother, Catherine Caldwell. Sophie, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from your mother. I wanted to apologize for my son's behavior at the party. That's kind of you, Mrs. Caldwell. Please call me Catherine. And it's not just kindness. I've known your family for years. I've watched Caroline treat you like a competition she needed to win. But on Saturday, watching you with Ambassador Reed, I realized something important. What's that? You already won. Not because your fiancé is impressive, though he clearly is, but because you built a life based on purpose instead of money. You chose meaning over status. My son is comfortable financially, but your fiancé is changing the world. There's no comparison. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. I raised Preston to believe that wealth and status were the measures of success. But watching you, I realize I was wrong. Real success is doing work that matters, having relationships based on respect, building a life you're proud of. You have all of that. Caroline has money and status, but you have substance. I'm proud to know you, Sophie, even if my son isn't worthy of being in your family. After that call, something shifted for me. The validation from an unexpected source, Preston's mother of all people, helped me process what had happened. 2 weeks after the party, Daniel and I started seriously planning our wedding. We decided on something small, private, intimate, just people who actually mattered to us. I sent my family a message in a group text. Daniel and I are getting married in October. It will be a small ceremony at the British ambassador's residence in Washington, D.C. 40 guests maximum. You're invited on the condition that you treat Daniel with respect and never again question the validity of our relationship. If you can't agree to those terms, please don't attend. My mother called within minutes. Of course we agree. We'll be there. And Sophie, we're going to do better. I promise you, we're going to be the family you deserve. I hope so, Mom, because this is your last chance. My father sent an email. Terms accepted. We'll be there. Thank you for including us despite our behavior. We don't deserve another chance, but we're grateful you're giving us one. Caroline took 2 days to respond. Finally, a text. I understand if you don't want me there. I wouldn't blame you if you uninvited me completely. But if you're willing to let me come, I promise I'll be there. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be a better sister. Marcus. I'm in. And I'm bringing a completely different attitude. I'm sorry for everything, Sophie. I'll do better. The wedding was scheduled for October 14th, 5 months away. We spent those months planning something that reflected who we were. No massive guest list, no elaborate decorations, no magazine coverage, just 40 people we loved in a beautiful historic building. The British ambassador's residence in Washington, D.C. is stunning. A historic mansion with beautiful gardens, elegant rooms, the kind of place that has hosted presidents and royalty. The ceremony was at 4 p.m. Fall weather in D.C., crisp and clear. Leaves turning gold and red. Perfect. My parents arrived early, dressed beautifully, looking nervous. My mother hugged me. You look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for inviting us. We don't deserve this chance. No, you don't. But I'm giving it to you anyway. Don't waste it. Caroline arrived with Preston. She was pregnant with their first child, just starting to show. She hugged me carefully. Thank you for letting me be here. I know I don't deserve it. You're my sister. I want you here. Just don't make me regret it. I won't. I promise. The ceremony was conducted by a high court judge who was a friend of Daniel's family. Traditional vows. Nothing overly emotional or performative. Just 2 people committing to each other in front of witnesses who mattered. I wore a simple ivory dress, elegant but understated. Daniel wore his formal diplomatic attire. We exchanged rings and vows. When the judge pronounced us married, Daniel kissed me and the 40 guests applauded. It was perfect. During the reception dinner, toasts were made. Daniel's colleagues told funny stories about diplomatic mishaps. My co-workers from the UN shared memories of our work together. Then my father stood up. May I say something? I nodded. He cleared his throat. Looked uncomfortable. I'm not good at apologies. I've built my career on being right, on making sound judgments, on reading people and situations accurately. But with my daughter, I got everything wrong. I didn't see her accomplishments. I didn't value her choices. I didn't trust her word. Sophie, you've built an incredible life. You speak 7 languages. You've helped shape international policy. You've negotiated agreements that have saved lives. You've found love with a man who values you for exactly who you are. And I almost missed all of it because I was too focused on the wrong things. I was disappointed you didn't marry into money. I was embarrassed you chose public service over finance. I questioned your judgment when you told us you were engaged. I'm ashamed of all of it. Daniel, welcome to our family. You're a better man than I gave you credit for. Actually, you're a better man than I am. Thank you for loving my daughter. Thank you for defending her. Thank you for showing me what I was too blind to see. He sat down. The room was quiet. Then Daniel stood. James, that took courage. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty, but I want to be clear about something. Sophie doesn't need me to defend her. She's perfectly capable of standing up for herself. I just had better props. Everyone laughed. The tension broke. The rest of the evening was lovely. No drama, no tension, just celebration. Caroline approached me near the end of the night. Can we talk? We stepped out onto the terrace. I've been in therapy, she said, since the engagement party, working on understanding why I was so cruel to you. And what have you learned? That my whole life has been about appearances. About marrying well, about maintaining status. But I don't actually do anything. I don't work. I don't create. I don't contribute. I'm just decorative. And watching you build a real life, a meaningful life, made me feel empty. So I tried to tear you down to make myself feel better. What are you going to do about it? I'm going back to school after the baby is born. Getting my master's in nonprofit management. I want to actually help people, not just attend charity galas and take photos for Instagram. That's good, Caroline. Really good. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it yet, but I'm asking for a chance to be a better sister. You have the chance. Don't waste it. We hugged. It felt more real than any hug we'd had in years. Over the next year, things settled into a new rhythm. My parents and I had coffee once a month in Manhattan. We talked about work, about life, about things that actually mattered. They asked genuine questions. They listened to answers. They'd learned. My father actually admitted he was proud of my work. Not because it's prestigious, he said, but because it matters. You make the world better. That's real success. My mother started volunteering with refugee organizations. You inspired me, she told me. Watching you dedicate your life to service. I wanted to do something meaningful, too. Caroline did go back to school. She got her master's in nonprofit management. After her daughter was born, she started working part-time at a nonprofit focused on women's education. It's the first time I felt like I'm doing something real, she told me. Something that matters beyond my own comfort. Marcus and I became closer. He'd started questioning his own path, wondering if making money was enough of a purpose. You and Daniel are changing things, he said. What am I changing? You're providing for your family. That matters. Maybe, but I want to do more. I'm looking at impact investing, using money to solve actual problems. Daniel's career continued to advance. At 47, he was promoted to full ambassador, permanent representative of the United Kingdom to the United Nations, one of the youngest ambassadors in British history. I became chief translator at the UN. I was overseeing a department of 30 translators, training new hires, mentoring junior staff. We bought a house in Washington, D.C. when Daniel's posting changed. We talked about starting a family. We built a life that reflected our shared values. 2 years after the engagement party, Caroline's wedding photos from that day were featured in Town & Country magazine. There was a sidebar article about the unexpected drama. It was carefully worded, diplomatically phrased, but the message was clear. The party took an unexpected turn when guest Sophie Chen's fiancé, UK Ambassador Daniel Reid, arrived with full diplomatic security. Sources say the Chen family had expressed skepticism about Reid's existence due to his previous inability to attend family events. His arrival with a security detail of 8 agents and 6 armored vehicles definitively ended those questions. The incident has reportedly led to improved family relationships and a greater understanding of the demands of diplomatic life. Caroline called me after it published. I tried to get them to cut that part. I'm sorry. Don't be. Let people know what happened. Maybe it'll make someone think twice before doubting someone they claim to love. 3 years after the engagement party, I gave birth to our first child, a daughter, Elena Victoria Reid. We gave her my mother's middle name. When I told my mother, she cried. You named her after me? After everything? You made mistakes, Mom, but you've worked hard to fix them. That deserves recognition. My family came to the hospital, brought flowers and gifts, met their granddaughter and niece. Daniel's parents flew in from London. Everyone was respectful, kind, present. It was what family should be. 5 years after the engagement party, my life was completely different. I was chief of translation services at the UN, overseeing a team of 70 translators working in every major language. Daniel was the British ambassador to the United States, one of the most powerful diplomatic positions in the world. We had 2 children. Elena was 3, and our son Thomas was 1. We lived in the ambassador's residence, hosted diplomatic dinners, navigated international relationships. My relationship with my family was good. Not perfect. We'd never be perfect. But we were real. We saw each other regularly. They respected my work and my choices. They loved Daniel and adored their grandchildren. Caroline and I were genuinely close now. She ran a major nonprofit, doing real work that made a real difference. We talked weekly. We supported each other. Marcus had moved into impact investing. He was using his finance skills to fund companies solving social problems. "You inspired me to think bigger," he said. My parents had become different people. They volunteered. They traveled for purpose, not just pleasure. They'd learned that wealth wasn't the same as worth. 6 months ago, I was invited to give a talk at Georgetown, my alma mater. They wanted me to speak to current students about careers in international relations and public service. After my talk, a student approached me. A young woman, maybe 20 years old, looking nervous. "Ms. Chen, I have a weird question." "Go ahead." "I read about what happened at your sister's engagement party, about your family not believing you were engaged because your fiancé couldn't attend family events. Is that story true?" "Yes, it's true. I'm dealing with something similar. Not exactly the same, but my family doesn't support my career choices. They want me to go into business. They think public service is a waste, and they make me feel like my choices are wrong. But hearing your story, knowing that someone else stood firm and it worked out, it helped me. So thank you. You don't need my validation. Your choices are yours to make. I know, but it helps to know someone else did it and survived." After she left, I thought about that day 5 years ago, standing on my parents' lawn, being mocked in front of 80 people, wondering if I should just leave, just give up. And then the ground started shaking. Then Daniel arrived with 6 SUVs and diplomatic security. Then everything changed. But here's what I learned. The real validation didn't come from the convoy. The real validation came from me, from knowing my truth, from refusing to back down even when everyone doubted, from standing firm in who I was and what I'd built. The convoy was just theater. The real strength was inside me all along. That's the lesson. Not that dramatic entrances solve problems, but that sometimes people need to see the full truth before they'll believe you. Sometimes you need to make the invisible visible. Sometimes you need 6 black SUVs with diplomatic flags to make your family understand that you weren't lying. You were just private. You were protecting something precious. And when they mocked that, when they tried to diminish it, you had every right to prove them wrong. The ground shaking wasn't just engines. It was the foundation of their assumptions cracking. It was their certainty crumbling. It was their worldview being challenged by undeniable reality. 5 years later, I don't need that validation anymore. I know who I am. I know what I've built. I know my value. But I'll never forget the moment when my family finally saw me. Really saw me. Not as the daughter who disappointed them by not marrying rich, but as the woman who married purpose, who chose meaning over money, who built a life that mattered. When Daniel stepped out of that SUV, when the diplomatic flags were flying, when the security detail fanned out, they finally understood. They understood that I'd been telling the truth all along, that my fiancé wasn't fake, that I hadn't been lying or exaggerating or competing, that I'd simply built a life they couldn't comprehend, because they'd been measuring success with the wrong metrics their entire lives. The convoy was just the exclamation point on a truth I'd been speaking for 2 years. Sometimes you need an exclamation point that shakes the ground. Sometimes you need proof so undeniable that silence is the only possible response. Sometimes you need 6 black SUVs to make your family shut up and listen. And you know what? I'd do it all again. Every awkward family dinner, every missed event, every moment of being doubted, because it led to this, to a life I love with a partner who stands with me, to meaningful work that changes the world in small ways, to a family that finally respects me, to children who will grow up knowing that worth isn't measured in money. The ground shook that day. But I'd been standing firm all along. They just needed to feel the earthquake to understand I wasn't going anywhere. That's my story. That's my truth. That's what happens when your family calls your fiancé fake, until his convoy pulls up and silences the lawn. The silence was worth every second of doubt that preceded it. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been doubted by the people who should believe in you most, if you've ever had to prove yourself when you should have simply been trusted, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about standing firm in your truth, setting boundaries, and choosing yourself even when it costs you. Thanks for listening, and remember, you deserve to be believed.